Hello there, you're watching All 24 News live from Algiers. Next are the headlines. South Korea military apologizes for failing to shoot down North Korea's drones and vowed to prevent future incursions. Serbian troops on Kosovo border in state of combat readiness as President orders that all measures be taken to protect the Serbian people in Kosovo. Also in our news, Russian President Vladimir Putin signs a decree banning Russian oil exports to countries that impose price caps. And UN Refugee Agency welcomes Indonesia's act of humanity in rescuing migrants adrift at sea. Hello again and welcome to the program. Fast in our news on Tuesday, December 27th, is a day that marks the 44th anniversary of the passing of former President Houari Boumediene. On this occasion, the Algerian Ministry of Mujahideen launched a forum to organize scientific sessions and workshops on the biography of Houari Boumediene, his political project and economic strategy after independence. The seminar, entitled Houari Boumediene, a statesman with the determination of a nation, was chaired by the Algerian Minister of Mujahideen, Laïd Rabiqa, who praised the achievement of the deceased.
Today we commemorate the passing of Houari Boumediene, who is alive among Algerians, and his name is still immortal. His stances overwhelm the conscience of the free and the sincere, and his achievements are a source of pride for generations over the years. His ideas are a source of inspiration for the elites and theorists, and his sense of the future is a sign of vigilance and good management.
Boumediene is a man of order who hates chaos and improvisation. He used to think about the consequences of the decisions he made, and he always studied all the dimensions of a problem.
The Minister of Justice, Abdelrashid Tabbi, revealed that $20 billion of the looted funds have been recovered, indicating that the amount is preliminary and is likely to increase. Mr. Tabbi confirmed that the communication and coordination took place between Algerian, French, Italian, and American judicial authorities to track how to recover these properties, especially since the process of retrieving the money was known for stumbling and complications at the international level because of the different judicial statements. To a different story now. The mothers of the 15 Sahrawi abductees demanded disclosure of the fact that their children had been abducted by Moroccan occupation and held in secret detention. In a statement, the Mothers Committee has asked Spanish organizations to assist them through their channels and network of relationships in uncovering the truth of the secret hideouts in which their children suffer. The committee has also stressed that Rabat should be condemned for invoking the legitimate rights of mothers, especially the right to demonstrate and protest in order to uncover the truth. According to the Palestinian Al-Asir Club, Zionist forces have arrested 27 Palestinians on Tuesday after an extensive raid on 5 cities in the West Bank. Zionist occupation also raided many Palestinian houses, including Al-Asir Club's President Kaddour Affairs in the east of the city. In the same context, the Palestinian freedom fighter Imad Fahel, who was sentenced to 26 years in the Nakab detention center, has been on a hunger strike for the 5th day, demanding an end to his isolation. In Palestine, still protests are taking place across the occupied Palestinian territories and Gaza on Tuesday in response to calls made by the mother of a cancer-stricken Palestinian detainee who died in Zionist custody. People gathered south of Ramallah in the occupied West Bank to demand the return of the bodies of Palestinians who were killed by the Zionist army and subsequently detained.
We want our sons, we want all our detained sons. I want Nasser, I want to bury him, I want to see him. I and his brothers want to hold him. His nephews only know him by name. We want the restitution of all our sons, not just Nasser. I came to claim all the martyrs who are held by the occupation, this brutal, despicable occupation.
To neighboring Tunisia now, the governor of the Central Bank of Tunisia, Marwan El Abbasi, suggested reaching a final agreement with the International Monetary Fund at the beginning of the coming year. El Abbasi, in statements to All 24 News Channel, confirmed that Tunisia has overcome all obstacles that obstructed reaching an agreement, especially those related to the reservations made by the General Labor Union in Tunisia.
Experts agreed in principle with the International Monetary Fund and there are no problems. In January, the fund will return to work, which means setting a new date for negotiations.
The head of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed al-Manfi, praised the Arab, African and international support that the Council receives to advance the file of national reconciliation and achieve the desired results. Al-Manfi, during his meeting with the Secretary General of the Arab League, Ahmed Abul Ghait, praised the Arab League's support for everything that would accelerate and advance the path of the political process, especially since this responds directly to the decisions of international legitimacy, including the decisions of the League Council at the summit level.
بعد التعثر المستمر من العمل
After the continuous challenges and proceedings of the representative and government councils to continue the constitutional rule and the end of the deadline on the roadmap, the Presidential Council have proposed an approach that starts from its meeting with the representatives and government councils and with the support of the UN delegation to solve the stuck points and the conflict to reach a constitutional basis based on the presidential and parliamentary elections which respond to the needs of the Libyan people and the decisions of the international legitimacy, including the decisions of the Arab Summit Council.
Al-Manfi also revealed a meeting soon that will bring together the state and parliament with the support of the UN mission as part of his body's approach to resolving the crisis, starting from addressing the points of contention between the two councils, leading to consensus on the constitutional basis. Let's listen.
We express the deep appreciation of Libya and its absolute trust in the importance of the role of the Arab League and its ability for the real contribution in urging the Libyan parties to abide by the decisions of the roadmap and the decisions of the UN Security Council and the Arab League in specific, and its support for all what accelerates and pushes the path of the political stream in Libya.
At least 10 were killed and 5 others were injured after a passenger bus triggered a landmine in eastern Burkina Faso on Christmas Day. The bus was traveling from the market town of Fada and Gormatheto, the border town of Kanchari, near neighboring Niger. The attack occurred in a region where the government is facing insurgents linked to the so-called Al-Qaeda. In Africa still, Ethiopian Airlines will resume flights to the capital of the war-ravaged northern region of Tigray starting from Wednesday. The announcement comes a day after a delegation of government officials and heads of public enterprises visited Mekelle to discuss implementation of last month's peace agreement.
The resumption of these flights will enable families to reunite, facilitate the restoration of commercial activities, stimulate tourist flow, and bring many more opportunities which will serve the society.
To other topical news now, Serbia has placed its security forces on the border with Kosovo in a full state of combat readiness. Senior officials have said amid increasingly strained relations with its neighbor and despite calls by the European Union and NATO for tensions to ease between the once wartime foes. Sofian Katuri reports.
Fears of violence have soared in Europe since the start of Russia's military operation in Ukraine. Serbs increased the number of roadblocks in northern Kosovo and refused to obey calls from the international community to take down those already there. This comes a day after Serbia raised the combat readiness of its troops stationed near the border. According to Serbian President Aleksandar Vučić, the western Kosovo's ethnic Albanian authorities were accused of plotting against Serbs as tension in northern Kosovo rose.
All of you, the West and Kosovo Albanians, you want conflict. You want Serbs to be killed. You will be glad if Serbs get killed. For you, it is more important that so-called territorial integrity of so-called Kosovo is confirmed than how many Serb heads will fall.
Nevertheless, Vučić said he is currently negotiating with the European Union and US mediators on preserving peace and finding a compromise solution for the current crisis, despite growing concerns about further escalation between these two warring Balkan rivals. Serbians who live close to Kosovo's border were still trying to go about their daily lives.
What can I tell you? We're used to this. It's nothing new for us. This has been going on for years. Tensions here are present for 20 years. So we are living normal lives as much as we can. And we don't have any comment. And we have no expectations whatsoever.
In recent months, tensions in Kosovo have increased further over a number of issues. Despite international efforts to intensify mediation, the majority of the European Union members and the United States have recognized Kosovo's independence, while Serbia has relied on Russia and China to uphold its claims to the province.
After almost a month of an awaited response to the Western price cap, President Vladimir Putin signed a decree that bans the supply of crude oil and oil products from February 1st for 5 months to nations that impose the cap. This comes after the G7 major powers, the European Union and Australia, agreed this month to a $60 per barrel price cap on Russian seaborne crude oil effective from December 5th over Moscow's special military operation in Ukraine.
If prices on oil from Russia or other countries are limited and artificial price caps are introduced, it will inevitably worsen investment climate in global energy sector and then will lead to the global shortages of energy resources and their costs will increase. And this, I repeat, will hit the poorest states.
For his part, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Monday that the situation at the front in the Donbas region was difficult and painful and required all of the country's strength and concentration. Zelensky also stated that power shortages were persisting, with nearly 9 million people remaining without electricity. The Ukrainian president said that power workers repairing the grid after repeated Russian attacks had reconnected many people over Christmas, but problems remained.
Bakhmut, Crimea, and other areas in Donbas, which now require maximum strength and concentration. The situation there is difficult and painful. The occupiers are using all the resources available to them, and these are considerable resources to achieve at least some advance. And I thank all our boys who stand in their positions, stand strong, and who nevertheless find opportunities not only to lose anything, but to knock out the occupiers, to minus them.
Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba on Monday said that his government is aiming to have a peace summit by the end of February, preferably at the United Nations, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres as possible a mediator. Around the first anniversary of Russia's war, that is. Kuleba said in an interview with the Associated Press that Russia could only be invited to such a summit if the country faced a war crimes tribunal first.
The idea of the peace formula is twofold. On the one hand, not to allow Russia to manipulate the issue of peace, because they regularly say that they are ready for negotiations, which is not true. We think that the United Nations could be the best venue for holding this summit, because this is not about making a favor to a certain country. This is really about bringing everyone on board. And there is no better place than the United Nations to do that.
To other topical news, Taiwan will extend its compulsory military service from 4 months to 1 year amid mounting military tensions with China. The island's president has announced Under the plans due to come into effect in 2024, conscripts will undergo more intense training, including shooting, exercises, and combat instructions used by U.S. forces. Islam Sid has the full story.
China's army has sent dozens of planes and a fleet of ships toward Taiwan in a day-long display of force directed at the claimed island. The Chinese act comes as a response to what it calls U.S.-Taiwan provocation and a strategic challenge, referring to America's latest defense spending bill, which authorizes increased security cooperation with Taiwan.
This is a firm response to the current escalation of provocations by the U.S. in collusion with the Taiwan authorities. The PLA conducted a joint combat readiness security patrol and joint firepower striking exercise involving troops of multiple services and arms in the waters and airspace around Taiwan Island. Chinese forces will take all necessary measures to resolutely safeguard national sovereignty and territorial integrity.
It is the largest ever Chinese Air Force display into the island's air zone. The island's military actively tracks China's military activities. Taiwan said it monitored the Chinese moves through its land-based missile systems, as well as on its own Navy vessels. Taiwan will extend its compulsory military service from 4 months to a year starting in 2024. In the face of China's military, diplomatic and trade pressure, the longer military service applies to men born after 2005.
Taiwan must strengthen its own self-defense ability so that it can secure its national security and interests, as well as receiving more international support. The future training for the mandatory service will take the models used in the US and other advanced countries.
China's military maneuvers toward the island has intensified in recent years, which comes as a response to U.S. government actions in support of Taiwan. Beijing sees visits from foreign governments to Taiwan as a de facto recognition of the island as independent and a challenge to China's claim of sovereignty.
In Asia still, South Korea's Yoon declared that his country vows to create a new military unit to boost drone defense readiness. This last decision comes after North Korean drones succeeded to enter the air territory of their country, and South Korea's forces showed weak readiness to curb such penetrations. Usama Hayadi with the details.
The Korean peninsula is still witnessing high tension, which is provoking more and more military wrath and possible interference. This has been one of the dangers that are widening around North Korea, South Korea, and Japan. 5 North Korean drones have crossed the air territory of their traditional rival South Korea. As a response, South Korean military scrambled jets and attacked helicopters, opening fire to try to shoot down the North Korean aircrafts.
Our military deployed men and unmanned reconnaissance assets to areas close to the military demarcation line, as well as North Korea to take corresponding measures in response to North Korean drones that violated our airspace. We conducted reconnaissance and operational activities, such as photographing major military facilities of the enemy. Our military will continue to respond thoroughly and sternly to such provocations by North Korea.
South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol vowed that he would advance the creation of a military unit specializing in drones, criticizing the military response to a border intrusion by North Korean drones. The incident showed a substantial lack of the South Korean military's preparedness and training for the past several years, and clearly confirmed the need for more intense readiness and training.
Using yesterday's incident as momentum, we'll expedite the plan to create a drone unit as soon as possible. Then we will boost its surveillance, and reconnaissance capability with cutting-edge stealthy drones.
Residents of South Korea's capital, Seoul, expressed concern over incursions by North Korean drones that crossed into their own territory. Some of them said the incursion reminded them of drone warfare that has been utilized in recent conflicts, such as Russia's military operation in Ukraine.
I have these terrifying thoughts of what if those drones were loaded with bombs that would trigger a war or something. As an ordinary citizen, there's nothing I can do if that really happens. So I can't help but think, what would I do if a war broke out?
South Korea's military made an official apology on Tuesday for failing to bring down any other drones after firing warning shots and some 100 rounds from a helicopter equipped with a machine gun.
At least 17 died and 90 others were injured due to the massive snowfall that hit northern Japan and other parts of the country on Christmas Day. Most of the victims were buried underneath the snow after the storm, and hundreds were left in their home without power. The snowfall in some parts of the country had accumulated at levels far above average.
This is a pain in the neck. I have to wrap myself with a blanket in order to keep myself warm.
Thousands of Americans are still struggling with power cut amid the enormous winter storm that has swept through North America. The storm claimed 28 lives in New York alone and at least 62 confirmed deaths across 9 states in the country. Search operations in Buffalo continues for additional victims. The bomb cyclone is considered as the worst to ever hit western New York in decades.
Medical examiner's office in the Department of Health has confirmed 3 more fatalities associated with the blizzard. I don't have the specifics associated with where they were found, male, female, type of death. However, we now have 28 deaths. You're probably wondering, we had 27, we've added 3, how could we have 28? The Erie County Medical Examiner has determined that the first 2 deaths that were attributed to the storm in the town of Cheektowaga have since been a non-storm related death.
For other news making headlines internationally, let's follow the news in brief.
Oil hit a 3-week high on Tuesday as China's latest easing of COVID-19 restrictions spurred hopes of fuel demand recovery, with further support coming from cuts to U.S. energy production caused by winter storms. China will stop requiring inbound travelers to go into quarantine starting from January 8th. The National Health Commission said on Monday in a major step towards easing curbs on borders that have been largely shut since 2020.
Argentina's President Alberto Fernandez said on Tuesday his government would abide by a recent Supreme Court ruling and give a larger proportion of state funds to the opposition-controlled city of Buenos Aires. The announcement signaled a reversal from a decision last week that drew a backlash when Fernandez said he was rejecting a ruling from the court that increased funding to the capital.
Energy Minister Fatih Dönmez said on Tuesday after President Tayyip Erdogan announced an increase in the volume of gas found that Turkey will deliver the first natural gas from its Black Sea to the national grid by end of March.
Charges were filed against the elderly man suspected of killing 3 Kurds in Paris on Friday, and he was in custody. An investigating judge brought the retired train driver before him and accused him of murder, an attempted murder on the basis of race, ethnicity, nationality and religion, as well as unauthorized acquisition and possession of a weapon. The Kurdish community gathered for a march in Paris to pay tribute to its victims.
And finally in our news, second boatload of Rohingya refugees arrived on Monday in Indonesia's Aceh province after more than a month adrift on the Andaman Sea without much food, medicine or a working engine. Zara Farjani has the story.
This is the second Rohingya boat to arrive on the coast of Aceh, Indonesia, a day after a wooden vessel with 57 refugees landed in another part of the area. The boat carrying 185 refugees spent nearly a month adrift at sea, with dozens of women and children on board in poor condition.
We have children here, but most of them are adults. There are 185 of them in total, comprising 83 men, 70 women, and 32 children or young children.
The refugees, most of them dehydrated, fatigued and in need of urgent medical care after weeks at sea, have been temporarily settled on the grounds of a local junior high school in Aceh's PDA district.
Most of their conditions are unwell. The paramedics from 3 local clinics are handling them. We're assessing which ones need further medical attention at these clinics or the hospital in the region.
According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, nearly 500 Rohingya have reached Indonesia in the past 6 weeks, while many others did not act, despite numerous pleas and appeals for help. The UN Commission urged countries to help the refugees stranded at sea.
We came here from the largest Bangladesh refugee camp to take this hope the Indonesian people will give us the opportunity of education. I want to achieve more education.
The Rohingya have long been persecuted in the Buddhist majority Myanmar. For years, many have fled to neighboring states. Tuesday's landing was the latest in the series of rescues around the region in recent weeks.
Well, that's the end of our program. For more, visit our social media platforms. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.